Welcome, everybody. Glacier Gamble Podcast here, and we're going to talk to you about Loki again this week. Season 2, Episode 2, 2 Loki's Loki and Sylvie. There we go. We're to the topic. Sylvie seems to be a large focus, probably going to be a huge heart of the show. The wildest rumors I've already seen is that she's going to be the new Loki and that she's going to replace our Loki in the future, and that this show is to guide her into that role. I don't know if that's actually the case, but if that turns out to be true, is doing a tremendous job. I just prefer Tom Hiddleston.
I like this episode mainly because in the first season, you got to see our Loki that we're used to basically go on the whole journey of like, I'm not evil anymore. Which you kind of saw throughout the MCU. He just kind of like fast tracked it because he saw what that led to, Thanos like breaking his neck or whatever. But you got to see that, and now you're like going through the whole thing again. But now it's like he's a hero. He's an established hero now. But you got to see the villainous side of him again, and that was like I lived for that aspect again, like that God of Mischief stuff. I want that back, like so much, because those are my favorite characters, in like any TV show. Negan,
Loki
Homelander,
is a villain,
right?
They're turning him into a good guy,
Anti-hero, because anti-hero sell.
But
Heroes
I mean,
sell.
he is a villain. He's obviously can be both, and there's different timelines and different whatever. So this version of him might not be one, but the best version of Loki is just a like the outsmart you, I actually win sometimes villain.
Right. The illusions, like even you got some of that with the shadows holding,
and they actually make him seem powerful too.
Right. Yeah,
like,
and he is like he's very powerful.
He doesn't seem like a villain that's ever seems powerless.
He's got
the only time he was powerless was season 1 of Loki.
The like green magic, and like the illusion. That's what you're used to seeing from Loki. So getting both of that back, both of those. Even like Mobius was like talking to one, and then Loki just disappears him, and he's over like standing to his left. Like I don't know. That's
the guy who plays Brad. I can't think of his name.
Casey.
But
Brad Wolf. Oh, the Hunter X5.
Yeah. He did a very good job.
Yeah.
But seemed like such a fun character, but he's just just a prick.
Yeah.
And did a good job. It was a nice little twist. Like they made Loki seem like he knew what he was doing. And it was actually interesting. Mobius has been doing this for so long, and he's the one who got under his skin. Right. You would assume Loki was the one, he's not really used to this, but it's like, he's actually had people say more harsh things to him than Mobius has ever had, so he probably has a thicker skin, even though he hasn't been doing it as long.
Yeah.
So when that flipped and Mobius freaked out, however, about 9 minutes in, I think it might have been 19. I think it was 9, but I think it was 9 minutes in. I laughed for a solid like a minute and 20 seconds straight because of Owen Wilson. And after that part with the Hunter where he freaks out because he's like, what are you doing? I was following you. Like, no, I'm following you. I was clearly behind you.
Right.
And then later, the tone, and when they sit down for the pie shortly after that, the tone in Owen Wilson's voice and the delivery was perfect. I laughed out loud.
No, he's a brilliant addition to the show. Like, obviously, like him and Tom Hiddleston like hit it off in season 1. And so if the rumors are true, going into say Deadpool 3 and Owen Wilson as Mobius is part of the TVA making an impact on Wade Wilson's world, that interaction is going to be just as good. Like,
right.
And actually, fun fact, Loki in the comics told Deadpool that he was a comic book character. So there is ties between like what we're seeing now and possibly Deadpool in the future. Sure. But that's just a cool interaction.
I thought it wasn't supposed to be a funny moment, and it was.
Right. Yeah.
So I loved that. I think that, so the main focus for those of you who maybe haven't seen it yet, or they've seen the first one, don't know if they want to continue with the show, it focused on talking about Mobius as if he's happy is this way, or if he's interested in seeing his life. They did a heavy focus on that. And in, say, like the summed up version, they mentioned Renslayer. They mentioned Renslayer multiple times in this episode
Miss
again.
Minutes too. Miss Minutes. How
And Miss
about
Minutes. So
yeah,
it was focused on them, and they went and found Sylvie's timeline. And then at the end, Docs carried
yeah.
out an order that basically pruned all the
70, it was like
timelines.
70% or something like that. They said there's about 30% left or something like that of branched
Right.
timelines. So 70% of
Which is
all of those
more than Thanos'
branches,
snap, which was
which
what you told
100%,
me.
because if you think if each, well, I mean, if you think about it, if a branch timeline happens, maybe there was like there could have been a genocidal impact on one of those branches, and so there would be significantly less people in the world.
Right.
But
Well, and
most of the
Thanos only
time, it's like
snapped with one timeline available.
exactly. So he snapped on the main timeline, right? So that would have been what if there's like 8 billion people, 8 trillion
Right.
people, half of them. But like you got to think each branch timeline, at least that's 8 trillion people on
Right.
Earth.
When
On Earth, like
Hunter
there's
B-15 said that that was billions of people, my first I
way
immediately
more,
was like, that's more than billions.
way
Like that's
more.
trillions or more.
There's 8 trillion people on Earth, and we also
Right.
obviously know there's a cosmic world out there as
And
well,
you're
like with
talking
a bunch of
thousands of
species.
timelines.
Yeah, yeah,
So
thousands,
thousands of
an infant,
trillions.
technically an infinite amount of timelines,
Right.
like because there are future timelines that can happen. Obviously, they did like they I don't know trillions upon trillions, like, and
Yes.
if there's 70% of those got dropped or ended, like
Right. So they turned
cataclysmic. It's insane. It's
he who
insane.
remains clearly has his hands with Docs, and Renslayer still
Right,
got power.
right.
Because after the pruning happened of all those timelines, Renslayer's Tempad
Tempad went off or something
went
like
off. So we
that.
know that now she's on the move.
Right, right.
Um
But what if you found her? What if you were able to track Renslayer because there was less timelines? You know what I mean? So like
yeah.
maybe she was easier to find because there was so many less events going on branched out. So I mean, granted, it was like that's a new thing that the TVA wanted to do was let these branches play out, let it go past that red line because there's lives on all those. And
Um
so
One
yeah,
big thing I think that I wanted to go back to Mobius for a second was, I think with Mobius supposed to be in Deadpool 3 and Mobius wants to really know what he's doing in life, what is this life going to be? Maybe it becomes that's one of the things he does is he ends up figuring out that he does want to cleanse certain
sure.
timelines. So could be something along those lines. It could just be a quick cameo, but that would be cool.
I'd love to see Mobius possibly like not necessarily putting a team together, but like going to like worlds where there are not cataclysmic events. I keep saying that, but like he's got to like Loki found him and Loki saved whatever. He goes and he finds different people that are in need of saving or saves them, and then I don't know. I think the possibilities are endless when it comes to time, past, present, as well as branch timelines, universes, whatever. So
I think one of the big questions that people are having from this episode is, what is that Tempad actually do? Because we still didn't get it 100% confirmed what
right,
his Tempad, why his
because it
Tempad's
yeah,
adjusted like
X5
that.
said it blocked the TVA from finding him, but
But that's not
everyone's
true.
like, no, that's not what it does. Like it does something. It does something. So I
Right.
don't know. I don't know.
So we don't know what that's gonna do. Maybe it could be it works with Renslayers.
But he
He knew
knew
they were
where
gonna bomb all the
Sylvie was.
timelines.
He knew they were gonna bomb the timelines and he knew where Sylvie was,
Yeah.
which is still odd. Like, why
Right.
didn't he know where Sylvie was, not carry out his mission?
And we
I don't
also know
know.
Sylvie didn't have a timeline to go back to, that she was in a different timeline because B5 or X5 or whatever said that that timeline was one of the ones that's going to get blown up.
Right. But she went back to hers at the like the one she went
Well, and I
to.
guess they didn't stop. They didn't bomb them all. They didn't get to 100% of
Right. They
them.
didn't get all of them.
So her still could have been around.
Right. But the one, well, her OG one probably isn't. Like her
Right.
OG timeline probably isn't. But like the new one where she's at McDonald's, like that one obviously is still intact because she was there at the very end.
Yeah. McDonald's paid the most.
Yeah. So
Multiple episode sponsor, showed the logo and the arches, mentioned
right,
products that they have. Oh, get an apple pie while you're there.
right,
Mate, I got you that delicious shake. Like,
right,
come on.
right.
You're just tossing. Like, I get it. You have to pay the bills. I mean, I know those bills aren't going to graphic designers or writers or any of the residuals
Or
for actors,
actors,
but
definitely not the actors.
yeah,
Going
at
into those
least
CGI.
yeah. Oh man. Yes, but we know, McDonald's is paying a ton for that. It's just where's that money going? Into the
Right.
pockets of the CEO. All right.
Right.
But I thought this episode was actually really riveting. It ended with Sylvie having the upgraded TemPad thing from He
Yeah,
Who
the
Remains,
disc, right?
basically insinuating that she is going to take matters into her own hands. She's extremely upset about what happened with all those branch timelines, and now she is going to be hunting down He Who Remains and Renslayer, or
Right.
just Renslayer.
Right. Right. Yeah. The fact that she did just jump to help obviously shows that she does care deep down. Just help with Docs and the crew and everything. Yeah, I don't know. Because obviously, like, it's gonna be I feel like it's gonna be one of those things where Loki and Mobius were shown like with Victor Timely, and they obviously like weren't they're like, that's him, like that's him. But is it gonna come down to where Sylvie is now hunting Victor Timely? And it's kind of the same thing over again. I don't know. I don't know. Because like obviously like at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, like Sylvie wasn't with
Well,
Loki and Mobius in that moment.
if there's
With
one thing major companies and production companies really don't like doing is finding a formula and just running it into the ground.
so why
So the
not do
odds of
the
it being the exact same thing definitely not high.
right,
I mean, I think it's exactly that. I think they found the formula that worked. They're trying to figure out a way to make it work for season 2, and it's going to be hunting down Timely across
yeah.
timelines
What if this version of Kang can save them?
and Miss Minutes.
What if this version of Kang can save them? What if Victor Timely is good in this
The odds of that,
world?
the odds of having any Kang really be that good of a person is not good. He's
Right. But I mean, like, there are worse versions of Kang. You know what I mean?
right.
There are definitely worse ones. So how can they use this one? Or how can Disney use this one and not have him be the exact same as every other one? You know what I mean? Like, if he's just as bad as the Kang that was in the quantum realm,
Oh,
like,
well, we
there
we know
obviously
they're
has
different
to be.
levels because He Who Remains outranked them all.
Right. He who remains beat them all, or trapped them all, or prevented them from getting to his timeline, or controlling the multiverse.
Right.
But how do they do these? And obviously, like, the look of Victor Timely looks way different than the one looks different than He Who Remains, acts different than He Who Remains, as well as the one in Quantumania,
Right.
as well as the
Well,
King
there's
in
a
Quantumania.
pharaoh, there's a lizard. I mean, there's
Right.
there's just a
There's
bunch of different ones.
right. So how I'm very curious to see how Disney makes all of these different Kangs different, as well as making the big final boss Kang at the end that much more threatening than
Yeah.
everyone else. So
Yeah. I think if you make them too similar, it's almost comedic. Like there's gonna be times where they say the same thing at the same time. It's almost gonna feel
right,
like buddy buddy. So if you make them too similar, it feels really comedic, and you're gonna have humor where it might not be wanted. But I also think to make them more intimidating, just show the levels like of fear compared to other ones. You make other Kangs scared of that Kang.
sure.
So, like when we saw at the end the credit scene in Quantum Mania with all the Kangs
Council of
cheering,
Kangs, yeah.
but they're all in that stadium cheering.
You're right.
So clearly, all the Kangs in the stands would be considered like lesser because
Right.
they're cheering for other Kangs. So they look up to those Kangs. They're clearly fearful of them.
Right.
I would say you bring back one of those 3 or 4 or whatever that walk up at the end of that one
Right.
that are clearly part of the council. You have one of them show up. That's one of the ones that has brought together a whole bunch of like a Kang
Right.
army. That one's one working together with other Kangs because the only thing scarier than a single Kang would be multiple powerful Kangs working together. So you probably bring in the council of Kangs and the council maybe the inner problem the council ends up
I
having in the future is Renslayer.
I think you're onto something because there was I think three at the end. There was like this the space one that talked weird.
The white one,
Was it the
like
Pharaoh?
super white pharaoh looking one.
Sure.
I
And
think.
one other one. There's
Yeah.
obviously one other one. So I think there was three. I think you're onto something. And here's what I think you're onto. I think when you get to Kang Dynasty, I think these three Kangs could be working together. I think you're right when in the fact that they could be working together and possibly hitting our sacred timeline from three different areas, like three different universes. Like it could be like an incursion, lack of better word, orgy, right? So like we got
Yeah.
one, two,
That's not a bad
three,
word, no.
three different universes colliding with our universe. Okay. And there's different Kangs controlling each of those universes. So now, since Disney has a multitude, or Marvel has a multitude of characters, I think that's the front they're going to go with. Is they're going to have we've got three different universes. We got to stop each of these Kangs, but we have way too many heroes to do every universe at once. We're going to have to like split up.
Yeah.
You're going to have to take a universe. I'm going to take universe. Something like that. I think, and you're going to get the leaders. You're going to get what Doctor Strange, Captain America, and Captain Marvel. Maybe like those are
Well,
your
now
three
nobody knows who Peter
leaders.
Parker is, so
Who's Peter Parker?
Spider-Man eventually ends up more powerful, I think, than we expect.
Right.
Now that he's just Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I think you're gonna get like a street level, magic level, cosmic level. You're gonna
Yeah.
get these three
It'll be
different.
Strange and Captain Marvel for sure will be part of it.
Sure.
The three I looked them up, it's like this bluish alien dude looks with like a purple hat.
Okay.
There's a pharaoh that has one eye or
They
like an eye
teased that.
patch.
They teased that in Moon Knight. There was a
And then the third one, he's got cybernetic attachments. He looks like he's
sure.
got like a
He's the
Black
one that
Panther suit.
talked weird. I think.
Yeah, he looks like he has a big old mouthpiece in, like a
Sure.
mouth guard.
I think
It's
you got something. That's my bold prediction based off what you said. So
is that we're gonna see a Council of Kangs.
I think it's gonna be like we're gonna fight those three, and then maybe it's like, oh shoot, there's a fourth one, and then that's the one like that's the ultimate.
And that's Victor
Kang.
Timely. That's the one
Yeah,
where, and that's the one
yeah.
where, that's why
Maybe
Loki
not even
looks so
Victor
scared
Timely.
in the
Like,
trailer.
yeah, maybe it's Victor Timely. Maybe it's just like the ultimate Kang that like Kang Prime,
Yeah,
right? So maybe that's it, and they never knew about this guy. I don't know. It could be anything.
it
And
could be right. Or you get, you have Kang standing there, and all of a sudden he just gets destroyed by a blast of energy through his chest, and he falls down, and there's just Doctor Doom standing behind him
yeah,
for no reason, just
yeah,
because you have to think about Doctor Doom all the time.
greatest
I don't
Marvel
know.
film.
I think that's where they're heading. It's going to be chasing down different Kangs across with Sylvie, similar to the first one, and then it leads up to a big bad that is supposed to be a shock, which I believe will be the council or the Kangs working together. And I think we're definitely going to hear about Mobius again. Each episode's an hour, so we're like,
I know. Yeah, we were eating good.
we're gonna be able to get a good amount of information in.
About
So right now, we've
halfway.
done this every show. We have open ends around OB. We got an open end around Renslayer. We got open ends of Mobius. We got open ends of
Tempad,
Loki, Sylvie, Kang.
the
We got, I
Tempad,
mean,
even
Miss Minutes. I would
right.
consider as for the Tempad.
Sure.
You got open ends for
Those
Hunter
branch
B-15.
timelines, the timelines that did survive.
Right.
Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't
They've
know,
got a
man.
lot to cover. They did make a comment about how they wanted to bring in multiple superheroes, but were denied. So there is a chance other superheroes come in, but if they do, they're not going to be very big. I would assume no superheroes are coming in.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anyone big.
I wouldn't expect anyone.
I was actually shocked to even get like a Frigga reference from Brad Wolf, like once he said that about you can even protect your mom or whatever like that. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that was gonna set him off. Like at that point, I was like, "Ooh!" I was like, "You should have done that." Like,
Right, we were all waiting for it. I feel like we were all waiting for him to just.
and that's when
But
like you even saw Tom Hiddleston, like he was like annoyed by him talking, and then you saw him go like pissed.
but
Like,
he knew like without finding Sylvie or whatever, the whole world is done
yeah,
for.
right.
So he had
Right.
to keep cool. He had to do it.
Right.
Mobius, he didn't do anything wrong. He just smacked him up a little
Right.
bit.
Right. No.
That character was I like that character is I like them because I hated him so much.
Right. Yeah, I don't think
Similar to
you're
like
gonna get
Renslayer.
right. I don't think you're gonna get any superheroes, especially if Victor
Uh-uh.
Timely and they're going in the past. Like,
You don't need him
I
either.
don't
You
know how
have
far in the
Loki and Sylvie.
yeah, I don't know how far past in the back you're gonna go that like can show a superhero from way back then. Like that.
Right. I mean, if they went back into like the 50s or whatever, there's some 50s, 60s. There's probably a family of superheroes they could
Right.
look at.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I still think well, granted, as soon as the actor strike ends and the CEOs of all these massive film corporations decide to pay their actors what the actors think is fair, what they desire, so the people
Which
they
the
can
actor's
continue
request was
making movies,
2%. In
right?
case you
And
forgot,
yeah,
2% was their requested
right.
increase.
So once that ends, I've seen from a bunch of outlets. I got insiders. I've seen from a bunch of outlets that like they're ready to say the Fantastic Forecast. So really the only one I think we're pretty set on is like Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, but it could be anyone.
Right. I
The
mean,
other ones.
I
So
you know what? All right, this episode's almost over. Let's just drop the bomb right at the end then. I'm Sue Storm.
all right, and I'm also Sue Storm from a different timeline because that's what we're doing. Um,
So you heard it here first. The
right.
fact we can confirm it. Fantastic forecasting. Sue Storm.
I'm playing the younger Sue Storm.
It's like Mary Kate and Ashley when they'd have one role, so they'd like switch off as
Right.
twins. So the
Right.
same different girl would be playing the same character. We're doing that with Sue Storm. It's just they're gonna part of the
Exactly.
way through the movie, you're gonna play a scene, then I'll play a scene.
Right.
Um, Joe actually requested all of the sex scenes with Reed Richards. So those will be the times
Which
where Joe comes
you're
in.
and when I'm Sue Storm, you're playing Reed Richards. So that's the kicker. So
I'm
no,
excited.
I'm very excited. I hope it's a banger of a cast. My unpopular opinion, I think it should be Mole Man. This should be the first movie for them.
I'd be good with that. I have a question for you. To final question.
Okay.
Out of those characters outside of Loki and Sylvie, who's the next one you want to see pushed as like the main story? So Loki and Sylvie, which one of those characters in Loki so far do you want a heavy focus on? And like say the next episode, which one would who would you want focused on? Like OB,
I
Miss
would
Minutes, Renslayer.
I if I were doing this show, I would say it was 53 minutes. Okay. 53 minutes of screen time. I would show Loki, Mobius, B15, Sylvie, or maybe not even Sylvie, and this is I would show them for 15 seconds in the next episode. I would start episode 3 completely from Renslayer's perspective. And then at the end of it, she like shows up and it's all of them like she's just face to face with like those three like Loki, B15, and Mobius, and she's like, "You guys messed up" or something like that. I don't know, something along those lines.
And maybe
But
it ends
but
with the
you
point
think,
where Sylvie's at the TVA.
yeah, maybe. But you think but it makes the fans think that that's the same Renslayer that had a relationship with He Who Remains, that was partnered with He Who Remains, that had a deal with He Who Remains, but it turns out to be a variant Renslayer from that moment. That'd be my thing. I have no idea what's gonna happen, but like that would be, I don't know. That would be like I would do like Renslayer the entire thing because then people are gonna be like, oh, okay, like this is. It's not like a filler episode, but it gives you information on what the hell's going on.
I'm
I
okay with
guess.
that because the one I'm most interested in is Miss Minutes, and a Renslayer episode would focus on Miss Minutes.
Right, because
If it's a variant, she might not have Miss Minutes, but I don't know.
right,
But Miss Minutes is who I because that's supposed to be an AI, but clearly she's really not because at the end of time she was completely free thinking.
oh yeah,
I don't know. I think that I need to figure out why she is even choosing a side. Is it
yeah,
because she was on He Who Remains side, so any variant of He Who Remains is her partner. That's who she chooses.
Right.
I don't know. So I want to figure that out.
And if they assume they're like she's with Renslayer. Is she though? Or is she like following her?
is she as
Trying
deep
to
undercover as possible?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. She could be like tracking her, I guess.
Right.
Like she's going rogue and tracking her, I guess.
Well, and
Like
her
that could
number
be
one point of contact, I think, would be OB inside. So I feel I feel like Miss Minutes and OB are connected somehow. Eventually, we're gonna have to
I feel like
turn on
Obi would
OB.
make the I know that Kang made the tech, but like OB would be the one that like upgraded it
Right.
and did the
Well,
new
so it
AI
turns out
and
that
did
dude, the other guy, knows everything that OB wrote. He memorized the guidebook.
Casey. Yeah.
I think when we turn on OB, he's gonna get replaced with KC.
Sure.
I think that like we're gonna find out OB is part of the problem. We're gonna have to turn on OB, and then Casey is gonna be the one that has to step in. And they're like, "Oh, we can't trust OB. We need you now. We need you to rebuild this good version of the TVA that we're trying to establish."
Sure. He's the new AB. I think Hunter B-15 or Mobius could take over though. Like be the lead, be the Renslayer.
I think B-15 becomes the leader at that point. Probably becomes the leader of the main portion, and then I think Mobius ends up wanting
like
to
the
be
agent,
being basically head agent. Like he wants to be the guy that still travels around. He doesn't want to be stuck in an office.
Sure.
Let us know what you thought about this episode. I loved it. This is still, I don't know what people were thinking, giving it like a 5 for the first episode, and now the second episode's at like a 6. People, yes, I think are having like the Marvel problems, and like Miss Marvel or the Marvels.
I don't mean to interrupt, but like, did you see the like Daredevil Born Again news about how they just scrapped it?
Yeah.
Or they scrapped what they had, and they basically like looked at it, and Kevin Feige looked at it and was like, "This is dog water. We need to focus. We need to do better. We need to do better."
I also think part of that it was with these new negotiations. I think part of it was, I don't know if we'll be able to get this done, so I think they also scrapped it for that. And this is part of it may have been true, but it was also partially an excuse because they had to.
They had and Loki season 2 episode 1 had a very big showing for like seeing it. So I think they're more like, we need to focus on, if we want to make our TV successful, our Disney Plus TV Marvel shows, we need to focus on these multi-season things. But these multi-season things will only be impressive and interesting if we nail them. And so like Loki season 2 is the first second season of one of their Disney Plus shows. So I think if they're focusing on that, and I'm for it too.
They did still say it's going to be 2 8-episode seasons.
Right. Yeah. So just like Vincent D'Onofrio even said, like, we're trying to make the best product possible. And so like he basically stood by the decision of like,
he doesn't have a choice.
Right. But let's see, he basically was like he stood by the decision and was like, we're going to give you the best product we can. So
I've seen people split. They were like, the best part of Daredevil was when he was Matt Murdock anyway. So I want a Matt Murdock heavy, but do you really want him to never show up in costume until episode 4?
Right.
I don't know. I think that it could go either way. It could be a great choice. It could be like, oh, please. And just because they're redoing it doesn't mean that they're going to completely steer away from that.
Right.
Like it still might.
I think another thing, apparently, like, and these are rumors or whatever, but they killed Foggy and Karen in like the first couple episodes, I guess. Like, and that was just him. Like he like gives up on being a vigilante because those two pass or something like that, and that wouldn't fly well. Like, how can you have Nelson and Murdoch without Nelson? I guess so. Hopefully they decide to change that decision and keep those at some point. I'd love to see them because I think they made that Daredevil show what it is. They were part of it. So anyway, back to Loki.
Nah, that was it. That's all we got. So you let us know what you think, comments, all that good stuff. And we will see you all in the next episode. Regarding episode 3 of Loki. The Marvels will be coming out in November, so once Loki's over, it'll be the Marvels after that.
Right.
You all look great today. GG.
GG.
Don't wanna sleep in cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. Have no regrets, yeah, I'm tired of my chest. I'll never forget what it's like to be in debt. Been stabbed in the back bed, I'll show you what happens. Pass me